Just to tell you what we think of Eugenia, the management. So I'm faded, am I? I'm finished. I stink!
Step into Hollywood's silent golden age. Glitz, glamour, fame. Everything seemed eternal. But what happens when the world suddenly talks back? When silent stars meet sound? Today, we uncover 50 actors and actresses whose dazzling careers were shaken, or even shattered, by the arrival of talking pictures.
Why didn't you come yourself?
I wanted to, but...
Oh, don't try giving me no excuses. I'm too upset.
1. Clara Bow. Clara Bow, Hollywood's original it girl and a true silent screen superstar, struggled when films began to talk. Her thick Brooklyn accent made dialogue awkward, and audiences found it hard to connect with her the way they had in silent movies. After Call Her Savage, Bow stepped away from the spotlight, her career cut short by the new era of sound. 2. Lillian Gish. Lillian Gish, one of silent cinema's most revered actresses, saw her dominance slip as audiences' tastes evolved. Though she appeared in sound films with some success, the new medium offered fewer roles suited to her delicate, expressive style. Her legendary silent-era magic never quite translated, and she never reclaimed her former stardom. 3. Mary Pickford. Mary Pickford, adored as America's sweetheart, faced a harsh reality as talking pictures rose to prominence. By her late 30s, she could no longer convincingly play the youthful, lively characters that had made her famous. With limited opportunities in the sound era, Pickford retired in 1933, closing the curtain on an iconic career. 4. Douglas Fairbanks. Douglas Fairbanks, Hollywood's swashbuckling hero of silent adventure films, saw his popularity fade as audiences embraced the new era of sound. His energetic, larger-than-life performances, perfect for silent cinema, lost some of their magic in Talkies. Fairbanks' final screen appearance came in The Private Life of Don Juan, closing the chapter on a legendary career. 5. Jobina Ralston. Jobina Ralston, a gifted comedienne and silent-era leading lady, found Talkies less forgiving. Her distinctive lisp made dialogue challenging for audiences, limiting her role. After a handful of sound films, including The College Coquette, she chose to step away from acting, leaving the silver screen behind. 6. Conrad Veidt. Conrad Veidt, a celebrated figure of German silent cinema, found Hollywood's new talking pictures challenging. Limited English skills and the demands of dialogue-heavy roles curtailed his American career, prompting a return to Europe. Still, he later enjoyed acclaim as Major Strasser in Casablanca, though his silent-era stardom had long passed. 7. Harold Lloyd. Harold Lloyd, one of silent cinema's top comedians, saw his gag-centered films struggle in the sound era. His creative team, skilled in visual humor, found dialogue-based comedy difficult, and his first Talkies fell short of expectations. Though he continued performing for a few more years, the rise of sound signaled a decline in his iconic screen persona. 8. Jason Robard Sr. Jason Robard Sr., a prominent silent-era actor, faced dwindling opportunities as films embraced spoken dialogue. Roles that once suited him became scarce, and he gradually moved into character parts. While he kept working, the height of his fame remained firmly in the silent years. 9. Ramon Navarro. Ramon Navarro, a charismatic leading man of silent films, faced challenges as Hollywood embraced talking pictures. He starred in musicals like Call of the Flesh and shared the screen with Greta Garbo in Mata Hari, yet his star power waned quickly. In later years, Navarro mostly appeared in smaller roles and brief cameos, a shadow of his silent-era fame. 10. Marion Davies. Marion Davies, celebrated for her comedic talent in silent films, managed to adapt to sound, but keeping her box office draw proved difficult. Though always professional, other actors connected more easily with audiences in Talkies. By 1937, at the age of 40, she filmed Ever Since Eve, which would be her final movie, closing the chapter on a remarkable career. 11. Sesu Hayakawa. Sesu Hayakawa, one of the first Asian-American superstars, dazzled audiences in silent cinema with his charisma and intensity. The transition to sound proved challenging. His heavy accent limited his roles and drew harsh reviews, forcing him to leave Hollywood at times. Yet he made a remarkable comeback decades later, earning an Academy Award nomination for his role as Colonel Saito in The Bridge on the River Kwai. 12. John Gilbert. John Gilbert, a leading man of the silent era, faced difficulties maintaining his romantic screen image once films began to speak. Though his voice wasn't bad, it clashed with the expectations audiences had of his suave persona. By 1933, after Fast Workers, his career had largely run its course, and he passed away just a few years later. 13. H.B. Warner. Famed for his portrayal of Jesus in The King of Kings, H.B. Warner successfully moved into supporting roles as the industry changed. A favorite of Frank Capra, he earned acclaim in films like Lost Horizon and It's a Wonderful Life. Warner continued acting into the 1950s, appearing in The Ten Commandments, before passing away in 1958 at age 82. 14. Yakima Canutt. Yakima Canutt started out as a rodeo cowboy before making his mark as a pioneering stuntman in silent westerns, doubling for stars like Clark Gable and John Wayne. He became famous for daring stunts, cliff jumps, stagecoach leaps, and horseback gunshots, earning a reputation for precision and bravery. Later, he stepped behind the camera as a second-unit director, orchestrating monumental action sequences, including the epic chariot race in Ben-Hur, a project that took 2 years to film. 15. Mary Philbin. Mary Philbin, remembered as Christine Daae in The Phantom of the Opera, captivated audiences with her ethereal beauty and delicate presence. Silent films were her realm, but the arrival of sound proved challenging. Early recording technology made her naturally high, girlish voice sound squeaky, limiting her roles. Her screen appearances dwindled, and she retired after The Fog, spending the rest of her life largely out of the spotlight until her death in 1993. 16. Bill Elliott. Born Gordon Nance in 1904, Bill Elliott grew up around horses and started acting in silent films in 1925. The early talkie era was a struggle, and he slipped into minor roles, but he eventually became a cowboy star, famously portraying Wild Bill Hickok in B-westerns. He kept riding through the 1950s before retiring to Las Vegas, where he hosted a TV show and appeared in commercials. Elliott passed away in 1965 from lung cancer. 17. Claire Dubray. Born Clara Violet Dubray in 1892, Claire Dubray enjoyed a versatile career across 4 decades, appearing in silent films alongside stars like Lon Chaney and Billy Burke. When sound films became dominant, she mostly moved into small character roles, occasionally appearing on TV. Dubray retired in the late 1950s and lived to the age of 100, passing away in 1993. 18. Antonio Moreno. Spanish-born Antonio Moreno, originally Antonio Garrido Monteagudo, was a silent-era heartthrob and king of the cliffhangers, starring alongside Mary Pickford and Greta Garbo. The rise of talkies brought challenges. His heavy Spanish accent limited leading roles, but he adapted, taking on character parts and working steadily through the late 1950s. 19. Edmund Cobb. Edmund Cobb, a prolific cowboy actor from New Mexico, appeared in hundreds of silent westerns and serials. When sound films became standard, he kept working, mostly in smaller supporting roles, and remained a familiar presence in Hollywood westerns well into the 1960s. 20. Asta Nielsen. Danish actress Asta Nielsen became a superstar of German silent cinema, famed for her intense, tragic heroines. When talking pictures took over, she stepped back from films, appearing only briefly in a few sound movies before returning fully to the stage for the rest of her career. 21. Colleen Moore. Colleen Moore, the iconic flapper of the 1920s, thrilled audiences with silent hits like Flaming Youth. She tried a handful of sound films in 1933 to 34, but their poor reception prompted her to leave the screen for good. 22. Owen Moore. Owen Moore, a leading romantic star of the silent era, charmed audiences opposite Mary Pickford in films like Cinderella. As talking pictures became the norm, his career lost momentum, and his final screen appearance came in A Star is Born. 23. Pola Negri. Polish-born Pola Negri, famed for her exotic and seductive roles in silent films, especially those directed by Ernst Lubitsch, saw her Hollywood stardom wane when sound films exposed her heavy Polish accent. She returned to Europe, later appearing sporadically in a few American productions. 24. Jack Mower. Hawaiian-born Jack Mower, a silent-era leading man in films like The Radio Detective and The Son of Sontag, gradually moved into smaller, uncredited roles as sound films reshaped the industry. He continued acting in films well into the 1960s, maintaining a steady if less prominent presence. 25. Marjorie Rambeau. San Francisco-born Marjorie Rambeau started on stage at just 12 and later moved to Hollywood in the late 1920s. By the time sound films took over, she was in her 40s and shifted to strong character roles, often portraying hard-luck women or mothers in movies like Primrose Path and Torch Song, earning 2 Oscar nominations along the way. 26. Bud Osborne. Veteran Western actor Bud Osborne, known for handling horses, wagons, and stagecoaches, often played scruffy outlaws with his unmistakable Texas drawl. As talking pictures gained popularity, his roles became less prominent, yet he remained a familiar and reliable presence in the Western genre. 27. Mildred Harris. Mildred Harris, a popular silent film actress known for dramas like The Doctor and The Woman, saw her prominence fade as talking pictures emerged. In later years, she appeared mostly in minor or background roles. 28. Annie Ondra. Czech-born Annie Ondra became a star of silent comedies and German cinema, captivating audiences internationally. However, the arrival of sound exposed her thick accent, making early talkies, such as Hitchcock's Blackmail, difficult for English-speaking viewers, and her career in Hollywood faltered. 29. Norma Talmadge. Norma Talmadge, silent film queen, rose from modeling in New York to become one of Hollywood's biggest stars, producing hits like Panthea and The Eternal Flame. As talking pictures took over, her delicate voice proved a poor fit for the new medium, and she retired after Dewberry, Woman of Passion. 30. Stuart Holmes. Stuart Holmes, known for his cold-eyed, mustachioed villains in silent films such as The Prisoner of Zenda and Tess of the Dubervilles, gradually shifted into character and uncredited roles as the film industry embraced sound. He appeared in over 500 films before retiring in 1964. 31. Ruth Clifford. Ruth Clifford began acting in silent films at just 15, quickly earning leading and supporting roles, including Anne Rutledge in The Dramatic Life of Abraham Lincoln. As talking pictures became the norm, her roles gradually diminished, yet she continued to work in smaller parts for decades, often under John Ford. Clifford also lent her voice to Walt Disney's Minnie Mouse and lived to see renewed interest in early Hollywood, passing away in 1998, just shy of 99. 32. George Chesebro. George Chesebro started with leading roles in silent films, but soon became a familiar face in B-westerns and crime dramas. Hailing from Minneapolis, he toured in stock and vaudeville before settling in Hollywood. When sound films reshaped the industry, Chesebro shifted into steady character work as henchmen, cops, and heavies, appearing in countless low-budget productions and later on television, remaining a reliable presence in Hollywood until his death in 1959. 33. Franklin Farnham. Born in Boston, Franklin Farnham started performing on the vaudeville stage at just 12 years old. Around the age of 40, he moved into silent films, often starring in westerns like Vanishing Trails and The Drugstore Cowboy. He stepped away from films briefly in 1925, but later returned, appearing in sound pictures, mostly in minor or uncredited roles. Farnham quietly continued working well into the 1950s before passing away from cancer in 1961. 34. Esther Ralston. Born in 1902 to a carnival family, Esther Ralston began performing as a toddler and made her way into silent films as a teenager, appearing in nearly 100 dramas, comedies, and westerns. Known as the American Venus, she starred in classics like Peter Pan and the American Venus. While she did appear in sound films, by the mid-1930s she was mostly cast in supporting roles. Ralston retired from the screen at 38, later working in radio, television, and retail before passing away. 35. Margaret McQuaid. Chicago-born Margaret McQuaid started in vaudeville as one half of the Pixelated Sisters before moving into silent films, often portraying spinsters or maternal figures. She is especially remembered as Mrs. Challenger in The Lost World. As sound films took over, her roles gradually diminished, and she continued in smaller parts until retiring after George Cukor's It Should Happen to You. 36. Lil Dagover. German actress Lil Dagover became famous in the silent era for roles like the frail haunted heroine in The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari. She briefly explored opportunities in Sweden, France, and Hollywood, but her career stayed rooted in German cinema. When sound films became standard, Dagover continued acting primarily in Germany, taking on supporting roles well into the late 1970s. 37. Helen Kane. Helen Kane, singer and actress, captivated audiences in early sound films like Dangerous Nan McGrew with her playful baby voice charm. Though she enjoyed early success at Paramount, her star shone briefly. Over time, her fame dimmed, and she never quite recaptured the heights of her initial popularity in the talkie era. 38. Marie Prevost. Marie Prevost delighted audiences as one of Mack Sennett's famous bathing beauties and in light-hearted comedies of the 1920s. But when talking pictures became the norm, her strong New England accent proved a barrier, and her once thriving career faltered. Struggling with depression and alcoholism, Prevost's life ended tragically in 1937 at just 40, leaving her largely forgotten despite the sparkle she once brought to the screen. 39. Theodor von Eltz. Theodor von Eltz, a darkly handsome actor of the silent era, made his mark as a romantic lead alongside stars like Bibi Daniels and Viola Dana. As films gained sound, von Eltz shifted into character roles, often gangsters, henchmen, or stern fathers, as in Bright Eyes. Across nearly 200 films, his on-screen prominence gradually faded, with many later roles uncredited. He also explored radio and early television, staying active in entertainment until his passing. 40. Anna Q. Nilsson. Swedish-born Anna Q. Nilsson was a shining star of silent cinema during the 1910s and 20s. A serious horseback accident in 1928, combined with the rise of talking pictures, greatly curtailed her leading roles. She gradually moved into smaller or uncredited parts, yet continued working steadily through the 1950s, including a role in Sunset Boulevard. Wilson retired from the screen later in life and passed away in 1974, just shy of her 85th birthday. 41. Chester Conklin. Iowa-born Chester Conklin rose to fame as a silent-era comedy star, delighting audiences with his Keystone Cops antics and the Ambrose and Walrus shorts alongside Max Swain. So iconic was his walrus mustache that Charlie Chaplin borrowed the look for his own Little Tramp character. Conklin managed to continue working into the sound era, though by then audiences' tastes and his advancing age meant he mostly appeared in smaller supporting roles. Still, he acted steadily for decades, with his final performance in A Big Hand for the Little Lady. 42. Mae Murray. Mae Murray, famously dubbed the Girl with the Bee-Stung Lips, leapt from Broadway and Ziegfeld stages to become a silent film sensation, starring in hits like The Merry Widow and Valencia. Her exotic beauty and dazzling dance talent made her a star of romantic dramas throughout the 1910s and 20s. But when films gained sound, Murray struggled to find her footing. Peacock Alley, her first talkie, was poorly received, and audiences found her voice and mannerisms less compelling on screen. She appeared in just 2 more films before retiring, later living in poverty, and passed away in 1965. 43. Nigel de Bruyere. British actor Nigel de Bruyere made his mark in silent films, often playing bishops, cardinals, and knights with his commanding presence. Unlike many of his peers, he handled the arrival of sound gracefully, his rich theatrical voice opening the door to talkies. Still, most of his roles in the 1930s and 40s were supporting parts rather than leading roles, though he worked steadily and reliably throughout. 44. Lois Wilson. Lois Wilson began her career as a schoolteacher before trying her hand at the stage, and by 1916 she had entered films. She became a leading lady of silent cinema and adapted to sound films with relative ease. Yet by the 1930s, the roles offered to her were smaller and less satisfying. Wilson stepped away from the screen in 1941, appearing only occasionally afterward on television and stage. 45. Jack Pickford. Jack Pickford, the younger brother of Mary Pickford, gained fame as a charming leading man in silent films such as Tom Sawyer and Brown of Harvard. Despite his early promise, a lifestyle of heavy partying, alcohol, and troubled marriages took a toll on his career. When sound films arrived, Jack's opportunities dwindled, and he never recaptured his former stardom. He passed away in Paris in 1933 at the young age of 36. 46. Estelle Taylor. Estelle Taylor, who began her career as a typist, became a celebrated actress of the 1920s, admired for her striking beauty and screen presence in films like Don Juan. She adapted to sound films, yet in 1932 chose to retire from the screen and devote herself to her singing career. Beyond Hollywood, Taylor was deeply committed to animals, founding the California Pet Owners Protective League and serving on Los Angeles' Animal Regulation Commission. 47. Cliff Lyons. Cliff Lyons, an American stuntman, actor, and second-unit director, was a master horseman who got his start in B-westerns. His voice didn't suit the new Talkies, which limited his on-screen appearances, but it didn't stop him from becoming one of Hollywood's top stunt coordinators. He doubled for stars like Tom Mix and John Wayne, and choreographed breathtaking action sequences, including the epic battle scenes in the Alamo. Lyons also collaborated closely with John Ford and enjoyed a long respected career until his death in 1974. 48. Mary Karr. American character actress Mary Karr, born Mary Kennevan, was beloved for her heartfelt portrayals of mothers, most famously in Over the Hill to the Poorhouse. As Talkies took over, opportunities became scarce, and she faced financial struggles. Public support helped her continue working occasionally, often appearing in films directed by her son, Thomas Karr. She lived a long life, passing away at 99 in 1973. 49. Lars Hansen. Swedish actor Lars Hansen, born in Gothenburg in 1886, became a star of silent films like Captain Salvation and The Divine Woman. When sound films emerged, his heavy Swedish accent made Hollywood roles harder to come by, prompting him to return to Europe, where he carried on a successful career. Hansen passed away in Stockholm in 1965. 50. Vilma Banki. Hungarian-born Vilma Banki rose to Hollywood fame in the 1920s, becoming Samuel Goldwyn's top star and enchanting audiences in films like The Eagle and The Son of the Sheik, alongside Rudolph Valentino. Nicknamed the Hungarian Rhapsody, she faced difficulties when movies added dialogue. Her almost inaudible voice made it hard for audiences to connect, and her silent-era stardom could not endure the new era of talking pictures. Banki made her final film in 1933 before retiring from the screen. Thanks for exploring Hollywood's silent era with us. These stars shaped cinema's magic, though sound changed everything. Fame may be fleeting, but talent lasts. If you enjoyed their stories, like, subscribe, hit the bell, and share which one moved you most.